Now entering Nerdist.com.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, Episode 29, Operation Annihilate.
Welcome into another edition of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm John Champion, and today I'll be appearing as the alien parasite attached to Ken Ray's back.
Hey, are you growing a mustache?
Oh, no, that's my brother.
Oh, okay.
Who lives on Deneva.
I get the two of you confused. Hey, here's what we're doing. Each week on Mission Log, we take apart an episode of Star Trek, analyzing it for messages, morals, and meanings, and figuring out whether the whole thing stands the test of time.
This week, Operation Annihilate. Ken, after every sentence on this episode, I'm going to end it with an exclamation point.
Are you really?
I mean, exclamation point.
Dude. You're going to be happy by the end of this episode. I'm not going to tell you why right now. I'm not going to spoil it for you. By the end of this episode, you're going to be happy.
Really? Who's to say I'm not happy right now?
Well,
you mean I'm going to be happier?
I believe you will be by the end of this episode. But we'll save that for the end of the episode.
Okay.
Because there are things we do at the end of the episode. There are things that we do at the middle of the episode. And there are things that we do at the beginning of the episode. In fact, one of the things that we do at the beginning of every episode is John Champion lays some trivial knowledge down upon us. Hit me with your best shot, friend.
All right. So we are talking about Operation Annihilate. And for those of you who are just getting warmed up, we're talking about space parasites on the planet Deneva. And by the way, this episode is, spectacularly known for William Shatner in a dual role. Yes. It is a little peek behind the curtain here at the making of TV magic. That is, in fact, William Shatner playing Jim Kirk's brother, Sam, who we see as a corpse for about, 15 seconds, I think?
Maybe. Just long enough to realize there's a caterpillar on his lip.
Oh, that's a mustache.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Right. So in case there is a confusion between Jim Kirk and Sam Kirk, Sam is the one who has a mustache and is also dead.
And is dead, right. I was going to say there are two ways that you can tell them apart.
Right.
Actually, a few, because also Sam didn't wear a captain's uniform.
Oh, right. But he did wear one of those snazzy jumpsuits that we've seen a lot of in Star Trek so far, like Devil in the Dark, and we will see more of in Star Trek. So if you like brightly colored jumpsuits, Star Trek is the show for you. One of the other things that I really like about this episode is that we have a beautiful example of some mid-century architecture on Earth, but being used as Deneva. That location is actually Space Park in Redondo Beach, California. You can look it up on Google Maps. It's number 1, Space Park. And today it is offices for Northrop Grumman and a development facility for Northrop Grumman. Back in the 60s, back when Star Trek was being filmed there, they were actually developing the lunar module and I believe the Apollo command module. So that's this really nice little slice of space history, real world space history. And I think it's really effective as a location for this episode. I like it when Star Trek gets out of the studio and goes to someplace real.
And it's a neat location too, because it's definitely got this, 1960s, 1970s, here's what the future is going to look like. Mm-hmm. A little bit like Tomorrowland.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Back before Tomorrowland went steampunk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the original Tomorrowland.
Exactly.
Kind of look. But it holds up, it really does. I think it's pretty cool. The other important bit of trivia here is that in the original treatment, this was called Operation Destroy, with the exclamation still in place at the end.
Yeah.
And a lot changed. A whole lot changed. This story had different characters. You eliminate the Sam Kirk character and Peter, Kirk's nephew, and you add in some Denevan characters who are now missing in what was actually aired. And it has a decidedly darker tone to it. In fact, there is a very heavy plot line about the Denevans choosing suicide over pain. It's really heavy stuff. And it would take too long to kind of go through point by point all the things that are different. But starting with the last episode, but we're going to continue this trend. We're going to be posting some documents from the Roddenberry archive on our Facebook page. So if you haven't joined yet, please do. We're going to post the entire original treatment for this episode. So you can go in and you can read all the notes and you can see all of those differences. I promise you it has a very different ending from the story that we'll be discussing today.
It is interesting to hear about other treatments for this week's story, but what happened in the story that actually made it to air?
Prologue. Kirk is anxious to get in touch with the planet Deneva, though Uhura can't raise anyone on comms. Kirk gives her a private number to try, though. Spock, meanwhile, is tracking an inexplicable mass insanity that destroys entire civilizations, moving in a straight line across the galaxy, headed next for Deneva. On sensors, a one-man Denevan ship is headed straight for the Denevan sun. It's out of range of the Enterprise tractor beam and refuses Kirk's command to reverse its course. Just before diving into the sun, the Denevan pilot says, "I did it. It's finally gone. I'm free." Then he's toast. Kirk wonders why the Denevan ship would pull the sun dive. Dr. McCoy thinks the mass insanity Spock's tracking may have made it to Deneva, and by the way, Jim, don't your brother and his family live on Deneva? A new revelation as we head to the opening credits. Act 1. Deneva, settled over 100 years ago, one of the most beautiful planets in the galaxy, and apparently nutty as a fruitcake these days. Also, there's been no contact between Deneva and the Federation for over a year. Spot of good news, though, Uhura has managed to place Kirk's private call. Arlen is the woman's name on the other end, and she's begging the Enterprise to hurry. But she can't talk long. They'll know. But please help us. Then static. Uhura can't reestablish contact. Kirk confirms to Bones that his brother Sam and his family do live on Deneva, and that was his sister-in-law. Kirk decides to lead an away team to the planet to investigate. Planetside, there seems to be no one around, at least not outside, though sensors indicate about 1 million people on the planet. Then a few people come running at the crew. They're brandishing clubs, telling the Enterprise people to get away. They don't want to hurt them. Then they try to. They're stopped in short order by disabling blasts from what look to be a bunch of phaser ones. Checking out the unconscious Denevans, McCoy is perplexed. Unconscious, he should be getting next to no reading off the group, and yet he's reading a lot of mental activity as if they're being violently stimulated. In the distance, they hear a woman scream. They run to investigate, and as luck would have it, this is Kirk's sister-in-law, Arlen. And she's freaked out, yelling, "They're here! They're here!" McCoy sedates her. On the floor are Jim's brother Sam, who is dead, and his nephew Peter, who is unconscious but still alive. Bones says he'll need the mother and boy on the ship if he's going to help them out. Kirk and Spock try to figure out what's going on. There are no known anomalous organisms on the planet, and yet Arlen was trying to keep something out of her living quarters. Spock will stay on the planet to investigate. Bones would like Kirk to be on the Enterprise when his sister-in-law wakes up. Arlen wakes in pain and a bit foggy, almost as if in a heavy fever. She says they came 8 months ago. Things, horrible things. Visitors brought them from another planet, but it wasn't their fault. The things made them bring the ship. Kirk wants to know what kind of things, but Arlen enters a new world of pain and is unable to answer. The things use pain to control the Denevans. They need them to be their arms and legs, she says. They're forcing the Denevans to build ships for them. She tells Jim not to let them go any further. Then she proceeds to die. Bones says he'll do everything he can to save Peter. Kirk beams down to Deneva to get a report. Spock has seen no one else on the planet. They've spotted no creatures, though there was this weird noise that they were about to check out. Kirk suggests setting their phasers on kill before they do. The Enterprise crew finds the source of the noise. They are creatures, and they look like giant amoeba. Or, you know in old movies how people would flip pancakes into the air and they would stick to the ceiling? Yeah, kind of like that. 1 or 2 fly at the away team. They fire at the things, though they will not be destroyed by phasers. They don't register on the tricorder. While they're obviously alive, they don't register as life as Spock and company understand it. Kirk decides to get away from the things, though when their backs are turned, one attaches itself to Spock. Kirk rips the thing off Spock's back, though the Vulcan seems distant and unresponsive, as we go to commercial. Act 2. It appears that Deneva has been entirely taken over by the things. McCoy, meanwhile, is examining the puncture wound left on Spock by whatever it was and did. Bones explains to Kirk that Spock's body is full of these tentacles, entwining and growing around his nervous system, and he dare not touch Kirk's nephew. The things that grow throughout the body from the pancake's sting take over quickly and are far too enmeshed for conventional surgery to remove. Bones has no recommendation. We're all stumped. Back in sickbay, Spock wakes up in pain. He leaves sickbay and storms the bridge. His apparent goal, to take the ship, though he is eventually subdued. Back in sickbay again, Bones says the level of pain being experienced by the people affected by the things is unparalleled. Spock comes to and tells Kirk and Bones that they don't need to restrain or sedate him anymore. He's overcome the pain now. It's all good. He can deal with the pain. He's Vulcan, you know. He does confess that the thing does want to take over the ship, but he's got it under control. But Kirk decides they can't risk it. They'll have to keep him restrained for the time being. Kirk doesn't want his nephew to go through that. He tells Bones to do what he can for them, though Bones reminds Kirk that there are over 1 million colonists on Deneva, and they need his help too. Both men exit sickbay, leaving no guard on the super-strong, alien-controlled Spock. What could go wrong? Well, he could break free of his restraints, which he does. He goes to the transporter room and demands to be beamed down to the planet, an order refused by Scotty, who says Kirk says no one is to beam down. After a short scuffle, Scotty holds Spock at the point of a phaser and calls the captain. Kirk confronts Spock on having disobeyed his orders and breaking out of sickbay. Spock says they need to study one of the pancakes, and since he's already been affected, or infected, it makes sense that he should go planetside and do it. Kirk agrees and lets Spock go. Act 3. On the planet, Spock goes back to where they found the pancakes, shoots one off the ceiling, and secures it to take back to the Enterprise. Back aboard the Enterprise, Spock says that what they have here is a single-celled creature, resembling more than anything a huge individual brain cell. So maybe not so much like a pancake then. Kirk says this explains a lot. It looks like the thing could be one cell in a much larger organism. A huge organism. Yep, says Spock, and though not physically connected, it is part of a whole creature, guided by the whole, drawing its strength from the whole. This, Kirk says, could be from an entirely different galaxy, though Spock will go on one better, saying it could be from a place where our physical laws don't even apply. This could make it tough to kill, though Kirk says not impossible. Remember that Denovan that flew his ship into the sun? He said he was free, right before flying his ship into the sun. That's the angle to work. Kirk would like ideas in 1 hour. Bones is having no luck. High levels of radiation, super high temperatures, nothing seems to kill the thing. Plus, even if those worked, they would kill the human hosts as well. It's not just about Spock and his nephew, though. Kirk says he cannot let the thing spread beyond the colony, even if it means destroying 1 million people on Deneva. Act 4. When last we left Captain Kirk, he had come to the fairly ugly realization that either they find a way to kill the things without killing the people, or they have to kill the people. All 1 million of them. Spock says that that's what they'll have to do. Bones says he cannot allow that. If killing 5 people saves 10, it's a bargain. Is that your logic, Mr. Spock? Kirk won't settle for any option presented so far, but Bones and Spock can find no alternatives. Spock wants to take Kirk's nephew down to the planet, presumably so they can be there to be killed when Kirk finally kills all the colonists. Request denied. They still need to find a solution. So what is it about the sun that killed the thing on the Denovan ship? Well, the sun is hot. It's radioactive, though that didn't do it. Hey, wait a second. The sun is bright. These things could be photosensitive. Spock says they can rig up a string of satellites to simulate a super bright sun around Deneva. They test the theory in the lab. It works on the thing. Then it works on Spock, though exposure to such high-intensity light leaves him blind. He considers that a fair trade. Then they get the test results back from the thing they killed in the lab. Turns out they didn't need quite that much light to kill it. It would have been possible to rid Spock of the parasite without blinding him. Armed with this new knowledge, they modify the light that they plan to use, rig up a network of satellites, and zap the planet with ultraviolet light. It works! The things on the planet are being cooked by the UV light. Do I smell pancakes? Also, the colonists are saved. And it turns out Spock's blindness was temporary. Vulcans have this other eyelid that they kind of forget about, but it protects them from blinding light. The end.
Beautiful job, Ken. A couple of things I'd like to point out here.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, Captain Kirk has a brother. It's too bad that we treat him with about as much regard as we do an unneeded citation of the Prime Directive. In other words, we introduce the idea and then we get rid of the idea immediately.
Yes. Yeah,
You know?
his brother's dead. What happens to his nephew?
Well, see, that's kind of strange. By the time you get to the end of the episode, we have this whole Kirk family, but at the end, we end up on the bridge. We're glad Spock is okay. And Jim, didn't you have a family? Whatever, let's just keep moving.
Well, most of the family's dead. It's not like he knows Peter. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, it's like, okay, so we know that Peter is going to be okay, so we're just going to leave him on Deneva, I guess?
I guess so. Yeah. Right. You'd think that, yeah. So that doesn't...
Who's going to teach that kid not to grow cheesy mustaches?
I know.
I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing.
Jim Kirk. Yeah. I have some good news, though.
What's that?
According to Dr. McCoy, there are 14 science labs on the Enterprise. So you know what that means.
Lots of Christmas parties?
Christmas time. We got 14
Is that
parties
really it? Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah. No wonder Kirk couldn't quite forget what happened with what's-her-name.
Yeah.
Because, she was at one of 14 science lab Christmas parties that he might have gone to.
He had 13 other parties.
I know. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And the best computers in the galaxy, by the way. The best computers in the galaxy, according to... you see, you say it was McCoy. I thought it was Kirk, but I know at one point they're talking about the fact that they can't solve the problem. They can't figure out what's going on, and that's when we find out 14 science labs on the Enterprise and the best computers in the galaxy. Right. I could see putting good computers on the ship, but I don't know if... because just about, let's say every other week, the Enterprise almost gets destroyed. It's the flagship, it's the flagship of the Federation or of Starfleet. So there's a chance that we're going to lose our best captain. We're certainly going to lose our best first officer. We're going to lose our shiniest ship and the best computers in the galaxy.
Yeah, and they're a very long way away for an upgrade.
Yeah, that's true.
If they have to download a new OS, it's going to take them a lot longer.
Yeah,
somebody who's on Earth.
Need to put into Starbase 200 to
right
to download whatever the next operating system for a Constellation class ship is. Constellation class or Galaxy class? I always forget.
Constellation.
Constellation. Good. I guess I don't always forget. I just think I do.
Right. Right. Some little things that I liked here. Spock's moment of convincing himself that he is a Vulcan and can control his pain made me think of some great moments like the Naked Time, where Spock is having his outward struggle in the privacy of the conference room.
Yep.
So some nice work there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes. We'll get to it in a minute.
All right.
Some okay work there. I mean, it's interesting that we see him do that, but we don't... There's a lot here that could or should be examined, and it's not really.
Yeah.
It's sort of like written really quickly. Like, Spock's struggle could almost be enough for at least, a full act, if not an entire episode. And we get Spock's struggle in about 2 minutes, to the point that I really didn't think, as I was watching the episode, or rewatching the episode the first time in preparation for this, I thought that maybe the organism was being a little crafty and was making Spock say, no, I've got it in control now. It's all good.
Right.
No, really, no, it's fine. Let me go. And no, it turns out that what we actually got was about 30 seconds of Spock going, wait a minute, I'm a Vulcan. I can do this. And of course he can't.
Do we have, nobody called out a general order number.
Yeah.
But do we have a general order to wipe out a whole planet again?
I guess so.
We introduced that idea and in a previous episode, and it just seems like, now we're back to this idea that if we need to, we can just wipe out a whole planet.
Can I ask another question? Is Kirk taking that sort of on himself? I don't want to keep bringing up This Side of Paradise, but in This Side of Paradise, we get the information that Starfleet has ordered that everybody on that planet be evacuated.
Right.
Starfleet orders that. We never hear that Starfleet is saying, you need to kill everybody on Deneva. We sort of get Kirk going, man, if we can't figure out something, we're just going to have to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. Our job is only to judge what is in the show, what we're actually presented with in the show. There is that presented in the document, the treatment that we'll be sharing with our listeners. So you do get a little bit more of that. But yeah, you're right. I kind of went back to watch the show with that knowledge and realized, well, this is Kirk saying this is what I have to do.
Right.
Hey, I do want to share with you, though, we got a piece of listener mail here from Jason, who wrote kind of with the anticipation that we would be doing this episode. And I just want to read very quickly what he said. Based on what was shown, they microwaved an entire planet to rid people of interior parasites in a way which would have fried the people and Spock just as much, not to mention that the critters would have been burning within them like giant single-celled popcorn had the people somehow been able to avoid getting burned. Extra eyelids will help you there. Wait for it. Here we go. Live long and phosphor. Thank you, Jason, for pointing out the obvious.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, I like the whole, forgetting that they have the eyelid thing. That's just fantastic. Yeah. Also Spock comes out. Does Spock normally not see anything unless he's looking straight at it? I mean, is there like a visual acuity thing about Vulcans that we don't know besides the, imaginary eyelid that they apparently have? Because Spock comes out of the microwave and he's like, hey, that worked. Everything's fine. And then he bumps into a table. And that's when he realizes he's blind.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize he's blind before that.
I wondered about that, if he just thought, like, maybe I'll try to make it look like I'm not blind. Oh, game's up. Yeah.
Spock, what do sensors indicate? Yeah, right? I could tell you, but it really is time you learned, Captain. Why don't you tell me what the sensors indicate, and I'll let you know whether you're right.
There seems to be a deficiency in my programming. I can speak in question marks, but not in exclamation points. I am therefore not certain I am up to the task of Operation Annihilate! Exclamation point.
So it was only a week ago that we were talking about City on the Edge of Forever and Kirk having this high-stakes ethical dilemma that one person had to die in order to save millions. And now he's kind of back in the same position, deciding the fate of 1 million people on a planet, but that would potentially stop the spread of this nefarious alien organism. So are we back here with the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few?
Yes. I mean, yes, that's definitely the issue, but I didn't really feel like... I don't think Kirk's heart was in it. I mean, as far as... Because here's the thing. What it reminded me of almost immediately, as soon as he said that, was Kodos the Executioner.
Oh, our old friend.
Yes, and I mean, do you think Kirk is really going to adopt the Kirk the Executioner moniker? Sort of wrest that away from Kodos?
Yeah, no. I mean, this would be much worse. But there is that moment where you have the captain's log of him saying this is the hardest decision of his life. Yeah. And I feel like at the very least he is taking it seriously, that is a viable option. Now, you and I know that Kirk wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I don't even know that I feel like he is considering it to be a viable option. It feels more to me like, I mean, he's on the horns of a dilemma, but we're doing the whole ethos, logos, pathos thing again, where, again, I mean, as they always are, McCoy is ethos, Spock is logos, and Kirk is pathos. Ethically, Bones says there's no way that he could, condone, let's say, killing all of those people. Logically, Spock says, well, look, there's no alternative, and, I mean, it's funny to say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, because the few, as you point out, are 1 million.
Right, but it's 1 million compared to millions upon millions.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, billions, one might even say. Or maybe even billions upon billions.
I like that word.
Yeah. And then, of course, right in the middle of the whole thing, you got Kirk, who is, who sees the logic in what Spock is saying, but also ethically is not going to kill all of those people. I mean, he's the pathos side. I mean, he's got the sort of, the heart for the whole thing. I mean, he's sort of, I guess you could say he's tortured by the idea, but the problem is I never really got the feeling that he was actually going to do it. Now, this is another thing, though, like we talked about in the last segment. I mean, just as we didn't really see Spock struggle with the whole, I want to try to overcome this, we don't really see Kirk wrestle with this that much. It's at the end of Act 3 that Kirk says, I may have to kill everybody. At the beginning of Act 4, he's like, I may have to kill everybody. And, Spock says, yep, you're going to have to kill everybody. And Kirk says, I'm not going to kill everybody. So, I mean, there's not... I mean, it's really it's less ethics, more Columbo.
Yeah.
In Kirk's treatment of the whole thing, he's like, no, there's got to be a solution. Come on, I'm looking for a third way. We can't let this thing take over the universe. We can't kill all these people. Give me something else.
But isn't it interesting that logical Spock is kind of stymied with the idea that there has to be another option here? I mean, he's just ready to say, well, this is your first best option. Go ahead and wipe out everybody on that planet. We're back to Enforcer Spock.
Exactly.
Again.
Occam's razor. The simplest solution is the best. Beam me down and then, toast me or whatever it is you have to do. Throw this planet in the sun.
Spock, you got to think outside the box a little more,
Maybe.
Yeah. But he is willing to, again, in both senses, throw himself into the line of fire.
Yeah.
Because he has that, as you're saying, he's the logos here, the purely mathematical, logical assessment of the problem. So in addition to him sort of judging what needs to be done with the planet, he is judging what needs to be done with himself, either to be beamed back down to the planet and or to be experimented upon by McCoy. I found that really interesting. History has all these kinds of interesting and fortunately successful examples of people who tested upon themselves and then discovered something great. But the ones we don't hear about are the ones who threw themselves into experimentation and then died in the process, So
that's a great idea. I'm sorry. So they finish cleaning up the microwave, from a Spock.
Right.
And then say, okay, well, we do have your nephew.
Yeah. Right.
And 1 million people down on the planet. I mean, that's the other thing. What was the hurry? So there's the Enterprise. They know there are no other ships coming. They know that they haven't even had contact with the Federation for the past year. Maybe they don't know that there aren't other ships coming, but they could have, basically thrown police tape around the whole thing or some sort of contagion, virtual contagion tent and kept everybody away until they found a cure. Sure. I mean, this again, I wasn't thinking quite so much in these terms, but it does go back to the Kodos thing a tiny bit. I mean, the third option could have been, let's wait and try some more stuff. Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of unknowns in this episode, and it's not necessarily the fault of the writer or the production. It's, again, you have the constraint of a 48-minute TV show, but you don't know how fast these things move, what their plan is, where they're going. There's just a lot of stuff that you don't know. You don't know how much.
That's actually covered in the beginning. This insanity that Spock is talking about that moves in a straight line. Okay,
right, and we know where they've come from.
Right, and we know how long. It started over 200 years ago. So this takes a bit of time.
So we don't know where they're going. We don't know what what the next step is precisely, and we don't know what
they're going in a straight line.
Well,
No, seriously, they're going in a straight line. You're saying that there are lots of variables that we just don't know, but given what we've been given at the beginning of the episode, for whatever reason, this thing wants to move in a straight line, even though it's now got access to starships.
Yeah.
It used a starship to get to Deneva, and now it's asking Denevans to keep building a planet, but it only knows one direction, apparently. Straight line, that's where we're going. We're going.
Well, unfortunately, in space, there's a lot of empty space when you travel in a straight line.
Right.
So
doesn't seem to phase this thing, though.
No. And we don't know exactly how much has been learned about the creature from Spock's studies. We certainly come up with a way to kill it at the end.
Yeah.
but we don't know a lot about it.
We don't actually know, though, that we've killed the thing in the end. We've killed these individual parts of it, right? But as they say in the episode, it's even though it's not connected, or even though they're not connected, they're part of a whole, feeding the whole, doing that whole thing. So is it there? Do all of those things, those cells on the planet, do they constitute the whole, or is this whole elsewhere?
Well, we don't know. I kind of got the impression that it was elsewhere, and they were going to it, but we don't know.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, it's really not explored at all. I like to think that it's the turtle, on which the entire universe rides.
This is turtles all the way down.
Yeah. Well, just one. Yeah. Or Gaia. I don't know. It could be from the Asimov novels. I don't know what it is, but I didn't feel like that was adequately explored.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot that maybe wasn't adequately explored here.
Yeah. I know we were talking with Rod earlier. Mm-hmm. He had this sort of had a surprised reaction to this episode in that Kirk, Bones, and McCoy. Why do I keep naming him twice? Kirk, Spock, and McCoy want to kill these things.
Yeah.
Without really studying them.
Yeah.
I have to disagree with our pal. I think when they, drive people insane, force them to build starships and try to move on to another planet to take over, that's about as much studying as we need.
Well, I agree with him to the extent of what I just said, that there are so many unknowns, and we've done just enough study to figure out how to kill it. But, maybe there's something we didn't see on camera. Maybe they kept one so that they could do a little experimentation, find out what this thing is. Because, again, we've run into this unknown, this being that has, I don't know if you necessarily call it a consciousness, but at least some motivation. And our goal here is to kill it and move on.
Well, except is our goal to kill it, or is our goal to kill these little things that are part of it? I mean, you say we don't know if it's a consciousness, but we do know that it's using pain to stop them from talking. We know that Kirk's sister-in-law actually says that she can't talk long because they will know.
Right.
And we do know that it is forcing them to build ships.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah.
So again, do we hang on to one or two of these things and try to communicate with them? Maybe the same way you'd communicate with a Horta. But I think Spock has probably had enough of these little things.
Yeah, that's true. What I wish that we weren't doing, and it feels to me like this is what we're doing in this episode, is the same thing that we've done with every pan-galactic super being that we've come across. Granted, this one seems to be evil, but maybe that is just from our standpoint. I mean, we may be to whatever is controlling these pancakes as the Horta was to us, right? I mean, maybe this thing, this multicellular, gigantic, so big you can't even see it organism, just thinks of us as like horses. Yeah. Doesn't realize there's actually any intelligence to us. I mean, maybe it's just like pulling the bridle, and trying to and making us do what it wants, even if that thing is to build a spaceship. Maybe it still doesn't see that equals some higher brain function as far as we're concerned. So maybe we're the unthinking beast to whatever this, thing is. That said, killing the little pieces that are trying to take over everybody, I'm still okay with. Even if it is just going to go in a straight line. Let's assume it's going to miss, Earth entirely, and it's going to miss the Klingon homeworld entirely, and it's going to miss, wherever anybody, Vulcan, let's say it's going to miss that too. Let's say the next planet is the Pakled planet, which of course we won't see for at least a century.
Right.
Even so, I would say, I'm okay with stopping the little individual pieces from moving on. I would like to know, though, is there some, big super being that we should be trying to communicate with, or are we going to treat this like, the Metron and Trelane's folks and, all the other super beings that we come across, the Telosians, or we just say, oh, wow, look at you, super being, bye.
Right. I mean, to me, it looks like pretty much most of the job of Starfleet in the 23rd century is just setting up quarantine all over the galaxy.
Don't even think to do it for Deneva, but you're absolutely right. Let's put a cone there so that nobody sails into that. And the new planet, let's put a cone here so nobody goes crashing into that. And don't talk to anybody. Well, let's just not talk to anybody. I know it's our mission to seek out new life and new civilization, and then we'll just put like a little, put a cone right there to make sure that nobody bothers that new life and new civilization.
Yeah. Oh, we sought that out. I guess we're done.
Jim Kirk's doppelganger, an amazing disappearing nephew, and a stack of parasitic pancakes. How does Operation Annihilate stand up decades later?
Well, John, I told you at the beginning of this episode that I was going to give you a surprise at the end of this episode, that I was going to, dare I say, make you happy by the end of this episode.
Oh, really?
I know you predicted this about a week, maybe week and a half, 2 weeks early. Mm-hmm. Miri is off the hook.
No.
Absolutely. I personally think that Operation Annihilate, and it's sad to me that this is the way the first season ends.
Yeah.
This is my least favorite episode of the first season.
Wow. Wait, so we're stacking up Operation Annihilate with Miri.
I am.
And and Lazarus.
Yeah. Well, I didn't dislike the alternative factor nearly as much as you did.
Because I really disliked that.
I know, you really disliked it. You thought that was going to be the most hated episode of the season. As far as I was concerned, you, my friend, were wrong. It was Miri, but we have a new winner. There's too much here that just doesn't work. I mean, there's too much here to me. It's ponderous.
Mm-hmm. All right.
It's just, I mean, again, we're doing the same thing that we've always done where, hey, new life form, let's not ask too many questions. Mm-hmm. Hey, I've got a family, let's not talk about them. Hey, I may have to destroy an entire civilization, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Hey, says Spock, I have this, this thing that's trying to take over my body, but wait a minute, I'm a Vulcan, so I can do that. Oh, and I have extra special magic eyelids. There's just, yeah. I am curious because I will fully confess I have not yet taken a look at what you're going to be posting as far as the other treatment.
Yeah.
I am intrigued though when you say that it stands to be darker because it needs to be darker. There needs to be more examination in this, and what this instead felt to me. We watch these episodes more than once every week, and I watched it and I was like very disappointed. But then I still had to go back and watch it again to take the notes. And I thought going back to watch it, to make the more in-depth notes, I thought, well, it can't really be as bad as I remembered. It really was as bad as I remembered.
That's interesting because I had the opposite journey than you.
Really?
So, yeah, but because here's the thing. Overall, does the production hold up? Well, no, it does not.
You said a great thing. Forgive me not to interrupt you. I liken them to pancakes only because of the whole thing where they were sticking to the walls or the ceiling.
Right.
You actually nailed it though, as far as what they look like. Somebody's frying eggs. Yeah.
Right. Just from a production point of view, we have that really cool location, but the effects are kind of lousy and we can't get around that. But as a story, as a script, there's just a lot of repetition, just a lot of foot dragging. As a story, this is not a well-told story. And we introduce ideas that we completely drop, ideas that could have improve the episode if we had followed up on them.
Yeah.
But I will say this, though. Unlike you, I actually liked it better on the second and third viewing. So, and I think the reason was that once I'd gotten past the idea of the little space amoeba fried eggs, once I'd gotten past to sort of knowing what the mystery is and how they solve it, then I was just anticipating Kirk's dilemma, McCoy's reactions with Spock, and Spock's insufferable smugness by the end of the episode. So all of that stuff improved it for me, but at the end of the day, it's not nearly enough to save this one.
No.
So I would put this above the alternative factor. I would put it above Miri. I'm so glad to hear that Miri is now off the hook from you, even though it's not nearly one of my favorite episodes. I would still rank this one better.
It's quite possible. It might tie Miri, honestly, because I'm trying to remember what it is that places Miri over this one. And honestly, what it is in my mind that places Miri over this one could just be time. It could be that it's been several weeks now since I've watched Miri, and it has not been nearly as long since I watched Operation Annihilate. And I will say point blank, it has definitely not been long enough since I watched Operation Annihilate. In summation, I am not a fan of this episode.
Right. Well, there are still things that I like here, and I think just as a piece of science fiction, the idea is pretty cool, of these cells that are part of a larger organism, and they have this kind of mission that they're on, and we've got to stop it. Just as a piece of science fiction, not bad, but as an episode of Star Trek, not that good.
Yeah, it would be all of that would be cool though if we did anything like Examine It. I mean, this to me is sort of the difference. Right. This is the difference between Starship Troopers and Ender's Game. Right? Where Starship Troopers, the novel by Heinlein, is great for what it is, especially when you consider everything else that Heinlein wrote. I mean, there was so much about, free love and, I guess, socialism. I don't know. There was a certain, there were real examinations of society, what it is, what it could be, and a lot of what Heinlein had written. And I believe, I may be wrong about this, I may be misremembering, but I believe Starship Troopers, which is very much about power armor and military moves and going on bug hunts and just killing your enemy, I believe came right after Stranger in a Strange Land, which actually upset a lot of Heinlein's fans. But all of that aside, Starship Troopers is very much, we're in the crap, because I can't say the actual word, but we're down in it, and we gotta slog our way through it, and we gotta get out of it. That's pretty much what Operation Annihilate is. As opposed to Ender's Game, which is kind of like, okay, so we have this war and we're training for this war, and it turns out we've actually been fighting this war, and all of a sudden, we through that series of books, we get turned on to the idea that it wasn't everything that we thought it was going to be. We're only getting just that 15 minutes in Operation Annihilate of, we're in the middle of it, let's get out of it.
Yeah.
Without the examination. And the examination is what makes Star Trek so wonderful. If all you're going to do is, do the starfight, you might as well be watching Wing Commander or, some bad science fiction, incredibly bad science fiction. You might as well just be watching explosions at that point.
Right.
It's the examination that makes Star Trek wonderful. And when they leave off, any serious examination in this episode, they leave off the wonderful bits.
Well, yeah, it's the missed opportunity here that makes this one kind of hard to swallow.
Yes.
Is that even if you give it that there's some good science fiction ideas presented here, there's just no follow through, and that's really a shame. So, as we do every week, we try to look for a message. Is there a message in this episode other than don't step into a full body size microwave?
Yeah, I can't really think of one.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, was there one as far as you were concerned?
Not really. If there is something interesting to be mined from this, I like the idea that we have an ethical dilemma, although I think you make a very good case for the idea that it's not as genuine an ethical dilemma for Kirk as we saw last week in City. And I totally agree with you there, although I do still think that the possibility of total annihilation was on the table, if only for a moment. So the ethics of it are interesting to kick around, but in terms of a message, I don't really think there's one here.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like we've said many times before, you can pull those things out. I mean, there is certainly the whole ethos, pathos, logos examination that we're talking about. There is the possibility of, okay, well, let's say they actually had tried everything, and then Kirk was sitting there trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, I mean, it sort of feels like, I mean, it's not Mad Libs, but it sort of feels like it feels like story cards in a way. Do you know what I mean? Where we never get to the part of this matters to the characters because, I mean, Kirk's brother is dead.
I know.
And that gets maybe a minute and a half of Kirk's attention. And then it's just, all right, well, now we got a mystery to solve.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. The disappointment here is that it feels like it's not very sophisticated storytelling. And we've gotten a lot of very sophisticated storytelling in Star Trek so far.
Yeah.
So there are ideas, there are topics here, but there's not a message. And that's okay. It's okay for Star Trek to not always have a message, but our disappointment of this episode is for a myriad of other reasons.
Right. If it delivers in other ways, then it's okay for it to not have a message or a hit you over the head message.
Sure.
If, however, I mean, it just, it's like you wake up on Christmas morning and somebody gives you a picture of what they're going to be getting you.
Right.
that's kind of this episode. Oh, look, there could be ethical dilemmas. There could be, real trouble. See how neat that would look.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
That would look kind of neat. You know what's amazing to me?
What?
We're at the end of season 1.
Oh, say it isn't so.
It's crazy, right?
Wow, I know.
Yeah, I can't. So only what? 20, half more seasons to go, plus the movies.
Yeah, no problem.
It's cake. It's absolute
Wrap that
cake.
up. Yeah.
We would love it if you would come along with us for the whole journey, and we would love it if you would participate as well. There are a few ways you can do that. You can reach out to us on Facebook, Skype, and Twitter at the handle Mission Log Pod, or you can call us 323-522-5641, 323-522-5641. You can email us missionlog@roddenberry.com. And, of course, we would love it if you would check out our website as well, missionlogpodcast.com. There's no direct contact link, I don't think, there, but there's a link to all those other things that I mentioned where you can contact us. So, really, if you're not able to get in touch with us, John says you're just not trying. I think there may be extenuating circumstances, but John's being fairly hard on you.
I say you're not trying. Hey, guess what? Yeah, so season 2 already starting next week. Join us, please, for Amok Time.
Some of the music for the Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com, and from the album Messages by Key Theory, free to download at kitheory.com. This episode of Mission Log brought to you by Frosted Parasitic Pancake Flakes. Remember, boys and girls, a balanced breakfast is the best way to conquer the day and the universe. And transmission.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.